Hi, this week we're going to be working with images. We're going to be using Fireworks CS6, and you're going to be focusing on how to create a page banner, a gradient background, and a concept map. A concept map's basically, it's been described as a graphic tool for organizing and representing information knowledge. And so they allow us to see the big picture of ideas that are related to a particular concept. An example right here, you can see a concept map where Web 2.0 is the big concept and then the subpoints below it. And so you're going to learn how to create something like this in Fireworks and then bring the image into Dreamweaver and actually make each little spot clickable. So this is an example of the type of project you're going to be doing this week. And so in this project you will create a web page that integrates an image with a concept map drawn on it. The image will be inserted into a web page, and the image map will be created to make clickable hotspots on the image. So you can always right click and go to view page source to see the code. And the code here is meant as an example, not to copy, but you can start to see the way that this was created. So the basic parts of this assignment is select a concept taught in your content area or an area that you might want to teach that has a main idea and at least two or more sub-related ideas. It's a good idea to create a simple concept map. Complicated maps do not always transfer well to the web because there is a limited amount of space that you have on a web page to hold that image and related text. After you've selected a topic, then start to look for information on the internet that relates to the topic. Locate websites that you can link to from your concept map. Create a new web page for this project, like this example here, and you're going to have an external CSS file and type a title on your page, 200 to 500 words of original text about your topic. And once again, this should not be copied, just like the code here. You want to use your own words always. You're going to then draw your concept map in Fireworks, and then you're going to insert your concept map into Dreamweaver, and you're going to make at minimum 2 hotspots on the image. Be sure to see your instructor's rubric to see any other specific requirements for this assignment. But the gist is, you're going to make something like this. So I'm going to show you how I made something like this. Now, the focus isn't for you to follow step by step and to recreate this, but rather that you can get a general idea of how this was created. So I'm going to first focus on creating the layout of the page, then I'm going to jump into Fireworks, and I'm going to show you how to create a concept map like this, and then I'm going to show you how to bring this back into Dreamweaver, this image, and add those clickable hotspots. Now, there are a few assumptions with this video. I assume at this point you understand a few of the basics that we've been doing so far over the last few weeks of this course. And so I'm going to go a little faster, especially when just creating the basic layout of this page. But I'm going to create a file, new file, and as always, I'm going to do an HTML5 doc type, and I'm going to hit create. And the first thing I always want to do is I want to save this, and I'm going to save this in my 502 folder. I'm going to call it concept map. Okay, so I'm going to add a title, and I'm going to go to split views. Okay, now that I've added a title and I've saved my file, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some space under the body tag, and I'm going to add the 3 main HTML5 tags that I'm going to use. So I'm going to use a header tag, and I'm just going to add some text in between so I can see it in the design view on the right. I'm going to add a section, and I'm going to add a footer. So in addition to these basic HTML5 tags, I will often add a div with an ID equals container. Now this is, as the kind of name suggests, it's a container to wrap around my tags to just give me some more control. So I'm going to go down here to the arrows. I'm going to do the paint, but this will apply source formatting just to kind of clean that up just a little. Alright. So I'm going to create an image, a banner image, to actually go in my header tag. So right now, I'm not going to put anything in there. Then in my section tag, I'm going to later put the concept map. But right now, I'm just going to have that bit of text about my topic. So in this case, I already have this text. And so after you've done some research, you should hopefully have your text, and you could have it in a simple text editor or Word. And I'm going to go over to section, and I'm going to go to paste special, and this is where I can decide what I want to do here. And I'm just going to do basic text with structure, and there it is. So there I have my text that I want. I'm going to do one last thing down at the footer. I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to go down to HTML, Special Objects, and Copyright. And I'm going to put in some copyright information. Okay. So now this is just my basic structure. So I'm going to save this. So now I'm going to start adding just a few basic things when it comes to CSS and adding some style to this page. And so the background, so if we look at this example again that I did, this is a background image that we're going to create in Fireworks. We're going to create this banner image in Fireworks, and we're going to create this concept map in Fireworks. But I still want to add some styles to my text, to my headings, and so forth throughout. And then last but not least, I would validate. Okay, now I'm going to start adding some styles, and I'm going to first start with my body tag. I'm going to click on body under the CSS panel. I'm going to click the plus sign. I'm going to get rid of the paragraph tag. I'm just going to do the body. I'm going to do new style sheet and click OK. It's going to prompt me to save this, so I'm going to go to my 502 folder in my styles folder. I'm going to call it concept map and hit save. So some basic things that I'm going to do right now. I'm going to later add my background image, and so we're going to do some things from there, but I'm going to start with adding some basic things with font. So I'm going to choose Verdanda for my font. I'm going to put my font size at 100%. And so that's my base font. And then I'm going to choose the color to be black. I'm going to do a couple more things. I'm going to set my background images, my background color that is, to white. Because if we actually look at this, you'll see that it fades down to white. And so that's a decision I'm making ahead of time. We're going to later explore the background image after we've created it. And then I'm going to go to my padding and my margin, and I'm going to put 0 for both of those, and I'm going to hit apply. Okay, so it's, you can see it making the changes over here on the right in my design view. And so the next thing I'm going to do is, here's an H1 tag, so I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click the plus sign. So I'm going to be less specific because I really just want to add the style to any H1 tag I use, and click OK. And for my H1, I'm going to select my font size. So I'm going to make that bigger, and this is based on that 100% I set for the body. I'm going to set the color, but in this case I know exactly what it is I want, so I'm going to actually just type in, hit apply, and that's right. And then I'm going to go down to this, and my margin body I'm going to put as 5 pixels. And really what I'm trying to do there is I'm trying to decrease this white space and improve the proximity, if you think about the principles of CARP that Robin Williams talks about. Alright, and so we have to later do some things to the paragraph tag as well, but right now we're good to go. So here we have an H2 tag. Gonna add some styles to that. And be less specific. I'm going to make sure it's in my concept map CSS file, and it is. And I'm going to set the font size. Select my color, and you can always use the color picker, right? But in this case, if you know the color you want, you can simply type in the hex codes. Okay. And I'm going to go down to margin bottom. I'm going to put 0, apply, and OK. So now I'm going to select my paragraph tag. I'm going to hit the pencil. In the paragraph, I'm just going to do 2 things really with this. And I'm going to be less specific. Concept map is whenever I have my paragraph tag, I want to, 1, have a top margin of 0. See how now that proximity is much improved. I'm going to go back to my paragraph tag, and I'm going to hit the pencil, because I want to also do a line height, and this is just to improve readability. You can see what it did, and that's why it's nice to hit apply before you closed because that was simply an error where I was simply going too fast. Where now if I select M, you can see that worked a little better. And so the way the line height works is if I do 1.5, you can see what that looks like. In this case, I just want something a little more than the basic. You could play with, what looks right. But there we go. Okay, so I'm going to now do some things to my container. Alright, that looks good. And the container, I'm going to give a background color of white. I'm going to set the width to 796. I'm going to actually make this fixed width. I'm going to go down to margin and I'm going to auto the right and the left, and this will center that div. And then the font, I'm going to choose the font size, so the basic body font, 0.9M. And you can see it applied, it looked a little funky, so I'm going to actually make sure my font is select to black. Alright, hit OK, and it's starting to look good and more like what I had in mind. So if I look over the example, I still want to add a black background down there, and I need to do some stuff to my learner description up top. So can't actually see the footer right here, so I'm just going to click over here, click footer, and I'm going to hit the pencil. Be less specific, I only have one footer. And this is where I'm going to do background of black. Hit apply. And then I'm going to do my text. I'm going to do like a light gray and maybe a 0.8 for the size, and we'll see if how this looks. So as you always, you want to start previewing it in a browser to see what it looks like, because what you see in Dreamweaver is not always what you're going to see once you upload it. Okay. So overall, I think this is a good start. I think we're ready to jump into Fireworks. I'm going to go ahead and open Fireworks. So before I get started with Fireworks, something should be said about finding images. And so while we spent some time learning about copyright, so you can always be aware that Flickr is one resource. And so when you go to Flickr, if you click on search, you'll notice that you have this ability to advanced search. And one of the things that's great is that you can choose things that you can have been Creative Commons licensed. So basically, can you modify and perhaps even use them commercially depending on what you want to do. So you can always search that way. So if you go to, for instance, Google Images, they have an advanced search. So you can always just type in, mountains, right? And when you come over here, you'll notice that you have this advanced search option. And under advanced search, you also have the ability to filter by license. So can you use it or not? And then the last one to be aware of is you can go to Creative Commons directly and once again choose to search by things that you can use. So in this case, I'm going to select Flickr, or you could do Google Images, but I'm going to type in mountain and you can see things that come up. And so the idea with the banner image is you need space to write things. And so let's take this one here. If I click on it, I can see some rights reserved, right? And it says I'm free to copy, distribute, and transmit, and I can remix it. Okay, so that looks good. So I'm going to click on View All Sizes and Flickr. So I can see this was an image I wanted to use, but the biggest version they have is only 640 pixels wide, which is not wide enough for the website that I want to use. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to at this point choose. Let's find something in Idaho. Okay, after spending a few minutes, I found another image. I'm going to click on it, click View Sizes, and this has a big one, so 1024 is what it's showing. That should be big enough. So I'm going to save image, and I'm going to save this in my 502 folder, in my images folder, and I'm going to give it a name. And so in this case, I'm going to call this Concept Banner. I'm going to hit Save. So now that I have an image to work from, I'm going to go into Fireworks, and you can click Open here, or always go to File, Open. So I'm going to navigate to my image, and I'm going to click Open. I'm going to make this small enough so you can hopefully see it better. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the width smaller. So I'm going to go to Modify Canvas. Let's try that again. Modify Canvas, Image Size. And I know my width I want to be 796. I don't know because that's actually the width that we set in Dreamweaver of the page. So I'm going to hit OK. And I can always go like that if I want to tighten it up. The question is about the height. So I start thinking, where do I want to put the name on my website? Often you want to not have too many distracting things. So I'm going to first get the crop tool, and I click and I drag, and I can start moving this around, but I know I want the height to be 100. So over here, bottom left, I'm going to type 100 and hit enter, and then I can move this around exactly where I want. And if I double click, it crops it. So I'm going to click my little pointer tool, and I'm going to do a file save. And there we go. And so now I want to add the name of my website. And so I'm going to click on my text tool. I'm going to drag it. And you can see right now it's set pretty big because of my settings last time. And so down here in the property inspector, I'm going to change this to, we'll say 40 right now. Okay. And I'm going to, before I even start typing, I'm going to change the font to something bright so I can see it. So if I click the pointer tool, I can go over here and stretch this. Oh, let's do undo. Let's try that again. You want right in this little blue box. You can click and drag it, and I can still move this around to exactly where I want it. I can highlight it all if I want to, and I can change the text. If you remember in the example, because the background was a little noisier, is there's actually an effect, a filter added. And so that's one way that you can help improve the contrast. And so if I click on the text, and you notice that depending on what you click on, the property inspector changes, right? So the canvas, first the image, first the text. And so it's important to realize that in Fireworks. But down here, I have this filter. And so you'll notice that if I go down here, there's things like this shadow. So I can add a shadow or a glow, and you can play with both to see what helps. So if I hit the glow, right? Now it starts with that red, which is pretty bad, but if you go to a white, every one of these filters has tools that you can adjust it to make it a little subtler. So the drop shadow can sometimes help. Depends really what the background is. And so spend some time exploring these to get the effect you want. So I'm going to do a file save as. And you'll see that you have a few options here where you can add some extensions. In this case, I want to save my concept banner as a JPEG. And so down here, I want to make sure I have JPEG selected, and I'm going to hit Save and Replace. I'm going to go to Split View, and if I go to my header, and it looks like in my CSS, I've actually added the font, body font, to be white somewhere, because you notice how you can't see it. The thing to be aware of is the undo doesn't always work real well with CSS for some reason, so it's one issue out. So then the container, you can see that it's set up as white, and so that's probably the error. Yep, that's where I did it. So now I'm going to go to my header tag. I'm going to delete that text. I'm going to go to Insert, Image. I'm going to add some alternative text. Okay, so there it is. So now if I go to preview, it's prompting me, do I want to save it? I can see there's my banner image. So that's looking great. So now there's two other steps. I want to add the background image, and then we're going to do the concept map. So now let's jump back into Fireworks. And I'm going to close this. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file. So this one I'm going to do, the width is 20 and the height, we'll say 600. Click OK. So now I'm going to go over here to my vector tools. I'm going to use the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a thin rectangle by dragging and dropping it. And then I'm going to hit my pointer tool. So with that selected, I'm going to go to Modify, Fit Canvas, and just tighten that up for me. So now my canvas is just one rectangle that's currently black. So now I'm going to click on the rectangle, and you'll see these buttons down here, and this is something new. But if I click on this one here, this is Gradient Fill, you'll see just like that, it added a gradient. Now it's upside down, so we'll work on flipping that, and that's easy enough. But this is where you can start to adjust the gradient. Maybe you want it to be more white than black. Maybe you want the black to be more dominant in it. Regardless, I'm just going to leave it pretty much as is. And now, if I click on it, you'll notice that it gives me that little, I can try to spin it, but that's nearly impossible. But if I right click, I can go to transform and I can rotate it. I can also go to modify, transform, and rotate. So I'm going to rotate 180, just like that. We got it. So I'm going to just save this as a JPEG. So I'm going to type in gradient background, and I'm going to choose JPEG. And be aware that you always have options where you can adjust certain things like the quality, but right now this looks good. So I want to make sure that I'm saving it in my 502 folder within my images folder. I am, and I already have the file, so I'm going to hit replace. And then we're going to jump back to Dreamweaver. And so in Dreamweaver, if you remember, when we were working our body tag, I'm going to hit the pencil. We're going to go back to the CSS, that we gave it a default background color. And that's in case for some reason something happened with the image, but now we're going to actually add an image. So we're going to add that gradient background image that just created. And so I'm going to repeat X only, and I'm going to hit apply. We'll take a look. Okay, so you can see that the issue I have right now is, and this was something I think I did earlier when I was going too fast, was my container, I actually want to be a white background. I think I added a white font, right? So now I'm going to go back here and I'm going to add white, hit apply, and I'm going to preview it again. Hit refresh, and there I can see it. I can already see that I need some white space and padding there, and so I could go to each one of my HTML tags so I can see what I have. And you can see that other than footer, I've actually not added any. And so I'm going to skip the header because I have an image there, so I don't want to actually add anything there. But I do want to add some padding for my section and for my footer. And I'm just, rather than using the CSS panel, in this case in code view, I'm just typing it in. Alright, and so you can see what that background image with a gradient did. So that looks great. So we're going to save all, and we're going to do our last part, which is the concept map. And so I'm back in Fireworks now. It's basically, do I want to save a ping of this? And that's, once again, if I want to be able to make changes to it easily, that's the best way to go. Now, if you remember, this is the concept map in the example, so that's what we're going to focus on right now. So the first thing, going to create a new document. In this case, we can adjust it later, but I'm going to guess 400 by 400 pixels and hit OK. So with the concept map, you could focus on just using the drawing tools by doing some shapes, using the line tool, right? I mean, so you could do something like this. Another option is that you could just bring in images, right, that you've found on the web. So you can go to File, Import, and I'm just going to bring in the image of Pisa that I had before, but I'm going to click on the scale tool and bring this down, right? But so you could do that as well, and draw lines and create a concept map that way. What we're going to do to create this concept map is we're going to actually go to Window, Common Library. You'll see it down here, so I'm going to double click on this to hide that, and I'm going to click on these little to drag it down. If you start looking in here, you're going to see all kinds of things, right? You know, so when you click on them, you'll start seeing different things, and these are some great tools. So then I'm actually looking for the 2D objects, so I could just drag this over. So I have home, I add some text under it. I could start using the line tool. If I hold down shift, I can get a straight line. Maybe I want to make that wider. Maybe I want to make that black. And then I could continue using different tools down here. And so you'll see that I have the ellipse tool. If I hold down shift, it makes a perfect circle. So in this case, maybe I want it to be gray. And you notice how even when I mouse over it, it'll help give me these tools to line up. And then I can add more text within. Right, So you get the idea. And then other great things about Fireworks is I can go up to the Styles panel. If I click on Styles, so you'll notice that there's actually no styles for the current document. And so with the example that we have for this class, it's actually using the plastic style. So if I click on the house and I click on the red one, you can see that it added that style. Let's close that. So now to remind you of the example, we're going to go through and do this real quick. So the first part is looking for the monitor. There it is. Click on that, click over here, make it bigger, go back to my pointer, and drag the dialog over, and select the film next, and then RSS. And so I can put these roughly where I think I want them to be, but then I can actually hold shift down, I can select them. If I go to align, I can align them, and then I could also group them if I wanted to. So I could, once I got them, I could right click and group, and then when I group them, they'll go wherever I want. And so then once I have that set up, now I can add my text. And it might be that I need this to be smaller, especially as a subpoint, so maybe I change it to 20. And this is where you could decide where you want to move these. And then with this, if you have to ungroup, you just simply click on it, you right click and ungroup it. And this I can always copy paste it, pull it over, and then change it. Or if you right click, you'll notice that you have this option to duplicate. Same idea. And now I'm going to add my line. So, and you can see if you want it, if you hold the shift key down, it helps you do that. If you wanted to make this thicker, you just simply go down to here. There's a 2 pixel. You could do the same with each one. Okay, last but not least, this is where I can go back to the styles. I have the computer monitor selected and I hit the pencil. I'm going to right click after I select them, and just like that. Few last things you'll notice are, in the example, I had some subtext, basically an explanation, because users don't always know that something's going to be a clickable link. So click on the image above. So I do something like that. I highlight it. I chose a 12-point font, but you could play with that. And so now when this is about where I want it, this is where I can trim my canvas a little. I could use the crop tool to do this, to tighten it up, or I could go up to modify canvas and trim canvas. The problem with that is you'll see that if I do that, it does it real tight and there's no white space around it. So I'm going to undo that. The nice thing about the crop tool is you can basically add a little bit of white space and padding throughout. So let's double click. We're going to save this as, we're going to make sure it's a JPEG. You'll notice that there's a lot of options. Generally you're going to find most of the time you're going to use a JPEG or a PNG. Every now and then you might use a GIF. That's as a general thumb. So I'm going to call this concept map. I'm going to make sure I have JPEG selected. Hit save, make sure it's in my 502 folder, make sure it's in my images. So now it's prompting me, do I want to keep a Fireworks version? And I do. So just hit save. I'm going to return to Dreamweaver. So I'm going to go to the top of my section. I'm going to actually do it right in front, put my cursor right in front of that H1 tag. This is where I'm going to go insert image. I'm going to do the JPEG version. And this is where I want to add my alternative text. Nice and descriptive. And so I'm going to click on this, and my image tag is selected. I'm going to click on the pencil. In this case, I'm going to add a class. Call this concept. Hit OK. Go to here. Go over to blocks, and I'm going to float to the right. Clear to the right, hit apply. You notice it didn't do anything yet because I just created the class. Now I'm going to click on this image. I'm going to go down to class. I'm going to click on concept. And you can see that it floated to the right. And so that's pretty much what I want. So I'm going to just, for the sake of time, move on. You can see that there's Dreamweaver, especially in the split view, is doing some funky things. But now the next basic steps are, how do I make these little areas clickable? Well, that's pretty easy. So you essentially, if you click on this, you'll notice down here in the Properties Inspector, you have these options down here. And so basically, so Web 2.0, if I click over there. I can fix that. And it wants you to describe this in the alternative text. So I'm going to actually undo because I want to make sure I have this whole area selected there. I'm going to click OK. And so now down in the Properties Inspector, I'm going to get rid of the pound sign, and I'm going to type in the URL to when people click on this, where I want it to take them. Whenever I want a user to visit an external website, I tend to choose blank as my target, so that means it's going to open in a new window. Then from alternative text, I'm going to type in link to Google. Okay. So now I'm going to save it and I'm going to preview it. So now you'll notice that when I mouse over, nothing happens around these, but when I mouse over this one, the cursor changes, and when I click on it, it brings me to my website. So now you basically continue the steps with creating more hotspots. So I'm going to just create all three real quick. So now I need to go back and add the information for each one. So I'm going to click back on the web. I'm going to make sure it's the one selected that I want. So now I'm just going to complete these. I'm going to save all. I'm going to preview. And you notice that now when I mouse over, it's opening in a new window like I expected, and it's taking the user to the website in question. So if you actually look, if we go back to Dreamweaver, if you look at the code, so if I click on here, you'll see that it's actually adding these coordinates. So it's doing a lot of the complex stuff behind the scenes for you. And so that's one of the great things about Dreamweaver. So wrapping up this demonstration, I still need my learner information here. And so in this case, I already have the text. And so once my text is there, I can create a class by hitting the plus and a class. I'm going to call it learners. And all I'm going to do with this is basically just change the font size. I'm going to go just code view because the last few things that I'd want to do is, one, I'd want to organize my code, clean it up, add some comments. Some other things that I'd definitely want to do for this page is I would want to also add some link styles. I would add my comments to help organize my code, and this is where I would decide what I want my link color to be. In this case, I know. Gotta close it. And then I would keep doing this, and I would add what I want my visited to look like. And then, for instance, a hover. I'm going to close it. I'm going to save all and preview. I'm going to actually get rid of this space here. Let's preview it once more. Save all. Hit refresh, and there you can see the style take effect. So in closing up, definitely I'd want to spend some time spell checking, commenting out my code, organizing my code, and then checking to make sure that my code is valid. And so adding the badges below, as you'll see I did an example, and then last but not least, uploading it to edTech2, and then adding the link with the other assignments. So hopefully you got a quick basic idea on how to create a basic Dreamweaver page that uses fireworks to create a banner image, a background image, and a concept map. Thanks.